Hello, you're right where you're supposed to be, back on the Powernomics.com YouTube channel and listening to Dr. Claude Anderson, your host of Connecting the Dots. Boy, have I got a doozy for you today. We need to connect the dots on because something is going on that's very mysterious and it's beyond being comical and selling and buying Popeye's chicken, where you got now a new company, a Canadian company that's now selling Popeye chicken in such a massive uh, uh, order. I mean, they have shipping so much chicken to these Popeye restaurants that they run out of chicken, and that the companies, the growers and the producers of chicken are saying, we are exhausted. We don't have any chicken to send to the Popeye restaurants. And you see black folk lining up outside Popeye chicken restaurants around the country, 2 and 3 blocks long, just can't wait to get in there to get them some Popeye chicken. And down in Houston about last week, they ran out of chicken, but there was such a high demand for this Popeye chicken that about 4 or 5 blacks showed up at the front door of a Popeye restaurant and carrying guns, pulled out their guns and was threatening the people in the restaurant, saying, if you don't open this up and give us some of those chicken sandwiches, there's going to be trouble here. And they put themselves in that precarious position for having committed a crime with an armed weapon just to get hold to some Popeye chicken. Now the question I have is that what's in that chicken that make blacks so driven to have to eat and grab a hold of some chicken and eat it and digest it and make them feel good? And that's a big question. And but the restaurant that's selling this, Popeye's restaurant, they've sold somewhere around, I think, about 65. They made about 65 million to $100 million in selling chicken across the country in the past few months or so, with 90% profit of those sales being coming from black people and coming out of black pockets. And I just wonder about that. Something is wrong. Now, I love to blame this on stupidity or ignorance or not, but there's something else wrong. Why is it that black folk are driven to get hold of Popeye's chicken? And I blame it just on inappropriate behavior patterns because they should know better. They've been taught not to export capital, money out of their own community into other people's community. We've been enriching other groups on the earth now for 460 years. I've said repeatedly in all my books, stop exporting capital out of your own communities. We are the poorest, most impoverished people on this earth, and particularly in the United States. In the United States, 38% of the black folk in America right now are beneath the poverty line. And about 34% of all the black kids are beneath the poverty line. You own and control nothing of value. You own 1/2 of 1% of anything of value, to be more specific. And I said, why would you keep giving other people your money while they are boycotting your communities and boycotting your businesses? You're rushing to get to theirs. And why would you be in such a hurry that you're going to line up 2 and 3 blocks just to get into the restaurant and then threaten people if they run out of chicken? But there's a connection with this. This kind of inappropriate behavior is not new. And what has happened now is this Canadian company, the white company that owns Popeye chicken, they have studied black folks' buying patterns and their culture, and they figure out how to connect the two together and say we can sell a lot of chicken to black folk if we try to connect the dots between what happened historically with black folk and what's happening now with black folk in the country, and do some new marketing. So let me go back and show you why there's a big connection between what's going on in Popeye's chicken and what happened to blacks historically when they began using black folk and anything connected with black folk and black culture and blacks eating patterns and using it to enrich themselves. One of the best examples I can give you, let's go back to slavery. One of the things that happened during slavery, besides black folk being brought in to raise cotton and tobacco, was also to raise rice. And in the southern states, running from about North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, and they were Louisiana. They were rice growing states because they found out that rice was brought into the country with the knowledge by black people about how to grow it in Africa. And so they started building big industries all along the coast and started signing blacks to raise that rice in those areas. Now, you've heard blacks complain about how tough it must have been and how horrendous it must have been on black folk physically to be raising cotton and tobacco. But let me tell you that raising rice was 10 times worse than raising cotton and raising tobacco, because those blacks had to raise that tobacco standing in water up to about halfway up their knees, where a lot of that water was filled with all kind of infestations, snakes, water moccasins, and crocodiles, alligators in this country. And they had to be there all day long, 13 or 14 hours a day, and which set up all kind of physical problems with their legs, and destroying the tissue, and freezing their backbones, where they were bent over all day long for 12, 14 hours, just digging in the mud and putting seeds for harvesting rice in there. That was a horrendous job, and consequently, most of those individuals were broken health-wise in a very short time, and most of them died early than any other slaves. Rice growing was a big killer, but it became a major industry. And since blacks had brought the whole idea of raising rice into the country from Africa, and blacks were the people that were raising rice in those southern states that I just talked about, then blacks became identified with rice. And so they started commercializing rice all through the South and selling it in the North. And when the people went into a market to buy rice, there it was, a great big box. And guess what was on the box? Uncle Ben's, a picture of Uncle Ben talking about Uncle Ben's rice. And that was the most popular brand of rice in America, was Uncle Ben's rice. And they associated with black folk, and people bought it to a large degree because it was identified with blacks. The same thing was also true with the tobacco industry. They almost everything pertaining to tobacco, they put black folks' photo on it, or black chewing tobacco, or dipping snuff, and every popular brand of tobacco had a photo of blacks chewing tobacco or snuff dipping, and they became the major brands, and blacks bought it just like whites did. And as a matter of fact, blacks were attracted to buying that kind of snuff and tobacco, and that was very popular in the South. They did also the same thing with other products, like for instance, Darky toothpaste. They came out with a toothpaste that became the most popular toothpaste called Darky toothpaste, where they had an image or painting of a black person in a tuxedo with a top hat on it, and had big white eyes and big red lips and big bright white teeth. And it was saying, "Make your teeth shine with Darky toothpaste." It was the best selling toothpaste in the country. And so they always found a way to associate blacks with something that became very popular in terms of commercial products. Like for another thing, for instance, like soap. They had some of the most popular soap and washing powder in the country was called Gold Dust Twins, which means they would have a couple of pictures or photos of a couple of black babies and black boys in there, and they would be dipping in the water. One would be in the water and be brown or black. One coming out would be almost plain white. It says, "Use Gold Dust soap or Gold Dust washing powder to clean yourself up." And so whites always figured out how to make money off of using anything of an image of black people. And now in the modern day times, you got Popeye chicken that's picked up on this. They learned that through the marketing program, that black folk would rush to buy something, even particularly if it's produced by whites, and the money is going to white folks' pocket. If you put some kind of an association or identification with something about black history or black folk. And so now we got Popeye chicken being advertised on TV daily across this country, and you got a black woman, and that black woman saying, "This is my chicken, the best chicken. I cook the best chicken." And everybody who, I should say everybody, anybody with any sense would know she didn't own the restaurant. It was owned by Canadian whites, and she's just a front for it and for marketing. But she looks identical to that black woman that's on the pancake box for Aunt Jemima pancakes. And she doesn't own the company. But what she's talking about, I got a special recipe, a seasoned recipe that makes my chicken finger licking good. And with all those people buying it, so obviously, if you bought out all the chicken out of a particular poultry company, and you clean out all the stores eating that chicken, you're black. I would ask the question, what's in that chicken to make all these black folks so interested in lining up for two or three blocks, line up, get that chicken, or showing up at a restaurant saying, "If you don't sell me some of this chicken, I'm coming with my gun." Now that's power. That is power. Anytime you can do that kind of marketing by pulling together images of black folk and black folk cooking chicken and be finger licking good because you're using special seasoning. And the other amazing part about it is that the image of a black woman saying, I'm doing the cooking, this is my cooking and my chicken, is because you see, historically, blacks were always the cooks in all the white homes. They were the blacks in the kitchen doing all the cooking, and whites just love black cooking, and blacks, in particular chicken, because blacks did have a special recipe for chicken. Black people wanted their chicken crisp, crisp, fried, well done, with all kind of seasoning on it, and they would just love that chicken. And whites wanted their chicken about half done, not as well done. They wanted some liquid, they wanted soft and liquefied. But so when integration came, blacks were the cooks in the homes and the cooks in the restaurant. But when integration came, blacks got kicked out of the cooking industry. They changed the name because now it was no longer a cook. They didn't want cooks anymore because of integration. And when the immigrants started coming in the country, they began to put immigrants into the kitchen and let them start doing the cooking in the restaurants and in the white homes. But instead of calling them cooks, they changed the name so you make a difference between a distinction between a black cook. They now started calling all those who were cooking that were non-blacks, they called them chefs. And the chef had a higher ranking than a cook. And now you go into most restaurants, they'll call them chefs. You won't see that many blacks doing that cooking. Going to any restaurant, Popeyes, McDonald's, any restaurant, and food service, you're gonna be mostly immigrants in the kitchen now doing the cooking. But anyway, back to Popeyes. Again, there's something going on with the Popeye chicken. And our black people have yet to learn that they need to cease and desist in impoverishing their own people. Just think, for instance, in closing, that rather than spending 60 to $100 million out of your pocket going into enriching someone else's pocket, some other people's company, just think if you're taking a significant amount of that money and then divide it up and say, let's take for every million we put in them, let's say we have operated $1 million for a black restaurant. Even though most black restaurants would have done well if they were only $500,000 a year. So if you multiply that out, you could have put, just think, you could put maybe 200 to 300 black restaurants doing extremely well based on the money you're spending now on Popeye's chicken. And so try your best to think about why blacks should go into business, build their own businesses, and keep their money in their own communities, buy their food that they like, and be able to play economic politics by saying we're going to spend our money with our own people first and buy for our own people, make our money bounce 7 to 8 times before it leaves our community, just like all other groups do. Now, watch out now and go buy that chicken because it's finger licking good, or you can wait and bring it back in your own community and make it finger licking good coming from black cooks and black business. Now, I have connected the dots for you on Popeye's chicken, and I'll see you the next time. In the meantime, God bless.